What is up, guys? Welcome back to the pod. We are here today to review WWE's Money in the Bank 2022 PLE event that aired live from Las Vegas, Nevada in the MGM Grand Garden Arena. The overall look and feel and energy of the show was cool. You know, the Las Vegas crowd definitely brought it, which is not really a surprise, I guess. It should, or we should be a surprise rather, with the type of crowd Las Vegas normally is, with it being a fight city and all that. And it was definitely a big night and fight night atmosphere in Las Vegas itself. So the fact that WWE got a good solid crowd and a good energetic and passionate fan base, and that was live, and there wasn't a lot of times and opportunities where I guess there was in a couple matches and a couple moments, but where WWE would have needed to inject like any type of like augmented fan reaction or anything like that. So I think the overall show was pretty dope. You know, like I said in the prediction show, excuse me, the build going into it wasn't necessarily the best. But to their credit as well, you know, just like with AEW, WWE has been hit with a lot of, well, not as much as AEW, but they've been hit with some curveballs, some injuries, and things like that that definitely threw the kind of projection and the original probably idea and the original route rather off course. You know, especially when you go back just a couple months, I think where shortly after WrestleMania, when they started airing the vignette and the promos for Cody Rhodes promoting Money in the Bank that was originally slated to be held at the Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. Just seeing how much has changed since then, you know, like obviously Cody is out for who knows how long, and I'm pretty confident that it was most likely certain that Cody Rhodes was going to be winning the Money in the Bank briefcase, at least for the men's side, and starting his journey and quest to becoming champion. But that is not the focal point here today. And I don't know, guys. If you watch the pay-per-view, I'd love to hear your feedback on the overall show itself, and of course what you thought about individual matches and surprise moments too, which we'll definitely get into here in a few moments. But hit me up on Twitter at ASHMANNS and the show's Twitter page at kickashpodcast_. And yeah, well, like I said, we'll just get right into the card itself here. Like I did correctly predict on my prediction show, the first opening match was for the women's Money in the Bank ladder match. No real surprise there, just makes obvious sense. But I will say I didn't get a lot of my picks, or I guess maybe most of them right, but some of them I got very wrong. And that's cool, you know. It's fine to be wrong sometimes in that sense, as long as it makes logical sense. And I don't know. I'm gonna wait and see in regards to the outcome for the women's side of things after the whole pay-per-view in and of itself. But to get started with the women's ladder match itself, of course we had Lacey Evans, Raquel Rodriguez, Becky Lynch, Asuka, Liv Morgan, Shotzi, and Alexa Bliss accompanying the match this year. Normally, side note, I kind of like a happy number at 6 competitors in each ladder match. It just feels more manageable. And I think tonight we had 7 and 8 respectively, so no real big deal there, but just kind of observation I made there. But I was wrong. I did not think to kind of I guess bury the lead here. Liv Morgan did end up winning the women's Money in the Bank ladder match, and when all the women had made their way in and were standing in the ring waiting for the bell to ring, it was kind of obvious to me once I saw how emotional Liv Morgan's face was before the match even started. I was like, okay, homegirl is gonna win this briefcase. And look, okay, I didn't predict her winning. I still don't really, for her as a human being and the dedication, the hard work, and I know the struggles, that everything that you sacrifice and everything that you give to be a professional wrestler. You live for moments like what she experienced last night at the pay-per-view, right, or at the PLE. And I think that for her as an individual, I'm super stoked and I'm super happy for her, and I'm sure she's a great human being. From what I've seen on social media, she seems to be a great human being and just a good, genuine person. So, again, obviously I don't know her. I wish I did. It'd be pretty cool, right? So, in that respect, I'm super stoked for her. I'm super happy for her. She has been in WWE for quite some time now, and she character-wise even too has gone through a lot, right? She was part of the Riot Squad. She lost both of her homegirls. She's just been flying solo for a while now, and she could have floundered, right? When they left, and it just been lost in the shuffle, been in the, no offense, 24/7 division, not really doing anything substantial. And while yes, they have given her some spotlight in some moments, which I'll kind of get into here more in a second, and some opportunities recently, within the past year or so at the women's championship, and she just didn't win, and in that sense, and then kind of why I'm torn on it is because so let me backtrack. I'm happy she won the briefcase. Okay, she wasn't my pick. My pick officially was Becky Lynch because I think with the direction her character has been going in and the neurotic nature of her character lately, I think this would have been perfect for her. And I think you could have used that too to kind of go back and forth between Raw and SmackDown, Becky for that matter, and have her start shit with Ronda Rousey again and kind of lay seeds or plant seeds there, depending on when you want to revisit that one-on-one match, which you need to. And maybe at this point it's maybe you don't, which I'll get into when we get into the Ronda Rousey match. But I don't know. My money was on Becky, and I'm not gonna say Liv winning the briefcase was wrong. But I wasn't in my cards. So I will give them kudos for that, and the emotion and the enjoyment and just the passion that you saw exude from her once she won the briefcase it just kind of made you feel good, if nothing else. Whether you agreed or predicted that going into it, you can't not be happy for her, right? So in that respect, I'm super stoked for her, and yeah, I that's really all I can say, and at least the emotional side of it. During the match itself, there were definitely some clunky spots. The one with Shotzi when she was trying to run up the ladder and she just fell right through, which, again, shit happens, like, especially if you haven't been in many ladder matches, or it doesn't matter. Like, you can do 100 of these matches and mistakes happen, and people calling Shotzi out for that. Look, I mean, I don't know. Like, we've seen Jeff Hardy when he runs the barricade on the ring. He's done that probably thousands of times now, or maybe over 1,000 times. And he's fallen multiple times, or he's slipped multiple times. So I don't know. I've just never really been a fan of people really calling that out. Because to me, it's just kind of cringy. Like, I just hope they're safe. But, there were a decent amount of moments like that. But one of the moments that kind of stood out to me, and not in a good way, is when Lacey Evans made a couple of attempts to climb the ladder herself and to obviously obtain the briefcase. And she got a lot of boos. And I think that that's really prevalent, and it says a lot. And I think WWE really botched her character. I think, and I don't like saying botched a lot, but I think they really did. And I think this is a good example of it. First of all, the back and forth nature and start and stop between, especially recently, the nature of her character. This woman has gone on TV and spoken and revealed very dark and personal moments of her personal life that were real. They didn't make that shit up. It wasn't just something her character was saying. That was real life stuff. And the fact that she shared all of that personal information with us and that story with us, and obviously it was being told to us so we can either relate to her or sympathize with her or just get behind her, right? Obviously, that's what the whole idea for any character is, but especially when you go to, that sensitivity and that level of story and revelation. The fact that they didn't have a steady path for her and just went back and forth, whether it was having her on SmackDown or Raw, she even showed some heel flashes at a couple points here, and it just wasn't consistent, and I think that's such a shame. Again, I'm not the biggest Lacey Evans fan, but upon her return from her maternity leave, if you were going to push her in this type of character, in this light, and have her go this direction, you should have gone full force with it, and you should have had at least a 3 or 4 month plan. Not saying she should have won the Money in the Bank here, or should have even been in line to be the champion, but I don't know, it was just really telling to me to hear the crowd's reaction, and the fact that WWE could have possibly had at least a good solid character there, and a good story, and a good, I don't know, just something that actually had some substance to it, and it's just been completely wasted at this point. And now, what do you really do with her going forward? She's been inconsistent on TV now, and again, it's no fault of hers. And yeah, okay, granted, she's not the smoothest or the most technically sound in the ring, but right now I'm just talking storyline and character base, which sadly, enough, the individuals themselves don't have the majority of control over, right? I'm sure if, just Lacey Evans in this example, if the second she, especially, we'll just have this latest debut, right? Not going back to the beginning of her debut, but we'll just have her from her return from her maternity leave. If her character direction was solely in her hands, I feel like she would have had it would have just made more sense, right? It would have had a better layout, and again, it's just a weird thing, right, guys? And we can say this for every character, but I just think that you had a chance to really have a character, and especially in the women's division, that had some type of substance to them. And again, not saying she needed to win here or anything like that, but I just feel like it could have been a good story and a good project to work on. And I didn't really necessarily plan to spend that much time on Lacey Evans here, but just the reaction that she got was just really telling to me, because it takes a lot when you explain and divulge a story to that nature to get the fans to boo you. And we'll see how it is going forward. It may have just been the rowdy crowd in Vegas, but whatever, that just really stood out to me. Another moment that stood out to me was when Becky Lynch, of course, hit, it was essentially like a leg drop, but it wasn't a leg drop, it was a leg drop to the sternum, kind of like a senton splash, but not really the full, it wasn't Becky's back landing on Asuka, but what happened was they set up a ladder laying flat, connecting from the apron of the ring to the commentator's desk, of course, ringside. They had I would say, 15, 16, 17-foot ladder right beside that, and Becky Lynch just got this crazed look on her face, and Asuka, and I forget the individual she was facing off with before then, but she had just gone into a battle with someone, was it Liv Morgan? Maybe it was Liv Morgan. Becky came in, interrupted that, got the upper hand rather, and laid Asuka out flat on the ladder. Becky saw the opportunity that she had and pretty much said, fuck it, and climbed the ladder. Didn't really say that, but it would have been cool. But essentially, gave that notion in that regard. It climbed the ladder, not all the way to the tippy top, but a fairly decent height. And did pretty much just like an ass drop right on Asuka's midsection. And I don't believe we saw Asuka after that. And that shit really did look painful. I mean, you got to think, you have 100-pound plus woman dropping on your midsection with her ass from, 8-10 feet in the air, with said momentum going into it as well. So, not fun. It does not make for a fun night. So hopefully Asuka's okay and there was no broken ribs or anything of that nature. But yeah, just a solid, just simple but effective spot. And I just really enjoy shit like that. It's simple yet effective. But wrapping up the ladder match here, like I said, Liv Morgan did eventually make her way to the top of the ladder to obtain the briefcase rather. It ended up being her and Becky at the top. They had joint or twin ladders side by side. Maybe I think the one on the right was a little bit shorter. Liv was on that ladder. Becky Lynch attempted to knock her and the ladder over. Liv Morgan, almost said Lynch. Liv Morgan braced herself with her foot from the top rope, pushed herself back, met Becky Lynch on her ladder, knocked Becky off, climbed to the top, and obtained the briefcase to be your victor for this year's Money in the Bank women's ladder match. And already went over my thoughts about it in the beginning. Just the reaction when you see stuff like that, it's just fun to see, and it just makes you feel good. So I'm not gonna really belabor that point because we'll get into it here in a few more moments anyway, but it was fine, I think that, like I said what I said on Evans, besides the few spots that Shotzi had that didn't really go as well as she had originally thought they were going to go, it just sucks, because I'm a big fan of, well, I'm not going to say a huge fan, but I'm a fan of Shotzi's, and I think she brings a lot to the division, and I think her look and her vibe and just the way, just her character, I think it's just different, and I think it's needed, and I wish they were taking her a little bit more seriously. But hopefully after this, maybe they will. Probably not, but we'll see. I don't know. I don't have a good feeling for Shotzi going forward, and it sucks, and that is nothing to her discredit, I mean, mistakes happen, you know what I mean? Like, shit happens in the ring, so we'll see what happens with her going forward, but next up we had the United States Championship match, Bobby Lashley challenging the United States Champion Theory, and this match was really good. This match was pretty hard-hitting, and it was dominant. It was Lashley getting the upper hand the majority of the match, and I was just really kind of surprised with it. Like I had said, I thought it was either going to be not necessarily a squash match, but a quick 1-2-3 victory for Bobby Lashley, or it was going to be a more back and forth and a real showing for Theory. And he had some moments, but it was nothing really outstanding from him. It just kind of the basic shit that we've seen. Nothing really crazy. But the way he sells and his facial reactions, I will definitely give him credit for that. Dude, definitely. I mean, obviously, look, we all know that he's the projected future of the company, and we'll get into that more later. Yeah, but he's not there quite yet, but he's getting there, and I think matches like tonight are good matches for him to have, and it's good kind of like paying your dues type thing, and just kind of like just putting in the work. And I think last night was a really good showing of that in the pay-per-view, or the PLE rather. I think it wasn't the most competitive match that I thought we were going to get back and forth wise if it was going to be an actual like full length match, but in that respect, again, I'm kind of glad as well, because Bobby Lashley needed to dominate too, and I think they handled the balance of Bobby Lashley dominating the match and Theory not being completely squashed and looking like shit out there, or like chump, or as someone that's not on Bobby Lashley's main event status field. It wasn't that telling. You can clearly, or I'm not gonna say clearly because that's maybe stressing it too much, but you can see, and you definitely got the feel that Bobby Lashley is a level or maybe two above Theory, but it wasn't in the way that Theory didn't belong there, and that he was out of place, or that it was unbelievable that he would be facing off against Lashley, and that, oh, of course Lashley is going to win the match. It was, in that regard, I give WWE and everyone involved a lot of credit. It's an interesting dynamic, and I'm really enjoying seeing the progression of Theory's journey. I think it's cool. Me personally being kind of there for the entirety. Well, yeah, there for the entirety of John Cena's run, and it's different when you're there for the beginning of a top, or what eventually, especially, will be a top star's career. It's fun to be along for the journey, because you build that connection and that bond with them. And like I've said in previous shows, I had a back and forth relationship with Cena, right? Like I loved him when he was the Doctor of Thugonomics, and just that asshole going out there and just rapping, the throwbacks and all that shit. It was cool, right? It was different. It was just, and especially for my age at that point, it was just cool. When he started becoming more and more of a main event guy, and was trying to, or not trying, but kind of changing the direction of his character and going more of a good guy route and more clean and PG, obviously, with the company as well. Me, along with a lot of people, kind of, I don't want to say, well, yeah, maybe that is the correct way to say it. We turned on him, and and that's just natural, right? And I think that's what you're supposed to do with the nature of the relationship between a fan of pro wrestling and the wrestler themselves and the company. So, again, this isn't a full-length story of John Cena or my love and hate for John Cena at various times, but I say that because, and then, of course, now I'm at the point where I've always respect Cena, right? But you're at the point where you're kind of missing what you maybe didn't appreciate as much when you had it. And I don't know, and it's kind of a weird thing, and I kind of have that feeling that's where we're gonna go long story short, with Theory. I can definitely see him being kind of on that parallel field. Hopefully, for his sake, star and presence wise as Cena, and superstar status wise as Cena, but at least in ring career wise, I can see him having like a rocky relationship with the crowd and shit like that. But long story short, and bringing it back here to the match itself, I really loved it, and I loved the ending of the match where we had Lashley getting the victory with the Hurt Lock. I just think it was a really good victory for him and a really good defeat for Theory. And I think it's okay to have people lose too. And I think especially us wrestling fans, we get so hung up on, oh my god, like if this wrestler loses clean or they can't lose clean because it's going to kill their career, and just the dramatic nature of some extremes that we take it to. It's like, no, fam, like people can lose and it's okay. Like if people's careers aren't going to end because they lose. Like no one should have an undefeated streak, you know, like in professional wrestling. And especially like when you're first starting off, yes, like your Jade Cargill, for instance, right? Yeah, absolutely. But when you're talking years into your career, no, of course not. And at this point, Theory is a few years into his WWE career and obviously multiple years into his wrestling career in and of itself. So it's okay for him to lose. That's just part of the journey. So I'm not going to say I love this match, but I loved the outcome to it. I loved the layout of this match, and whoever the producers were in this match, shout out to them. And shout out to, of course, Lashley and Theory involved into it. This obviously wasn't going to be the end of the night for Theory, which we'll get into here in a few moments, but shout out to Lashley. Dude is a fucking star. Las Vegas loved him. I'm so happy he's the champion. Since we don't have a champion who shows up on TV nowadays, I think having Bobby Lashley as your United States champion on Raw is going to be a good thread and a good kind of anchor for each show, I feel. And they can definitely plan it that way, and especially since he's a good guy, too. I just think they have a lot of options with Bobby Lashley as the United States champion going forward. Next up on the card, we had the Raw Women's Championship match. Bianca Belair, of course, your Raw Women's Champion, defending against Carmella. Originally slated was Rhea Ripley. Of course, we all know that she has been injured, and she did recently but post an update on, I believe her Instagram it was, showing that she had her braces off, and she seems to be healing pretty well, or at least in the right direction, so shout out to her and hope everything goes well. Teeth look great, all that good shit. So, yeah, just shout out and kudos to her. You know, hope everything continues to go well. And I'm kind of happy it didn't happen here because now maybe that can be Bianca's championship match at SummerSlam. And that'd be dope to see Rhea Ripley get a Raw Women's Championship match at SummerSlam. I think she definitely is fitting of that spot, especially with the career that she's had already, and we're in the accolades that she's had already. You know, she has been in the WrestleMania match against Charlotte Flair. What year was that? Was it 36, right? I think so. Yeah, so it's just, I don't know, I think that's going to be a fun story, and they have a lot of history going back to the NXT days, so we'll definitely get into that when the match is made official again and Rhea Ripley is able to return. And I think a lot of wrestling fans out there need to backtrack on their Twitter fingers, you know, and give an apology maybe or some kudos to Carmella because, again, this wasn't a 5-star classic, but this was a good match. And this was a lot of the moves that they had a lot of great transitions, I'll say. And I kind of noticed that throughout the match itself. It wasn't sloppy. I mean, there was a couple spots, you know, that weren't 100%, but it's like, I don't know, we as fans, too, like, we aren't coaches. Like, we shouldn't be out there critiquing every little thing. I mean, yeah, if something's an obvious mess-up, then, you know, whatever. But, like, I don't know, man. And again, like, kind of what I was referencing earlier, I like that. I like when things don't go 100% as planned, as long as everyone is good, you know, and no one obviously gets majorly injured. But I love it when things don't connect, or when things don't go as smoothly, I should say, or if things connect a little too snug, or it's just, I don't know, off balance a little bit. It just gives it a more real feel. So that's just kind of my little soapbox moment there. But this match was good, and like I said on the prediction show, Carmella doesn't get nearly enough credit as she deserves for her progression and the level of talent that she's built up, and I don't know, just the skills that she's developed and how much she's been working and training on her craft in the ring. So I don't know, I'm not going to go back on that soapbox because I was there on the prediction show. So if you want to hear that, you definitely can go back. But yeah, this was a good match. It wasn't, not like I said, a 5-star classic, but this was good, and I was really surprised by the aftermatch, or the aftermath of the match, rather. First of all, I loved the ending. I'm pretty sure Carmella smacked Bianca Belair and was pretty much like, yo, bitch, let's go. And then Bianca got pissed. there was a good maybe 30 seconds to a minute there where Bianca just, right after the smack, Bianca just was like, okay, bet, and just kicked her and hit her with a kiss of death and got the victory. But I loved that glimpse of a real life Bianca Belair just getting pissed, you know, and whether she was actually pissed off or not, but just that break of the version of her that's always good and just, I don't know, it was like an edgier side to Bianca Belair, and I loved that. Like, not that, I don't even want to see her go heel, but I just would love to see, kind of like Becky Lynch turned her Becky Lynch character into the man and was just more of a tough SOB, like just mouthy and stuff like that. Like, I think you could do that with Bianca. I think you could give her kind of like the man-esque type of version to her character and not be not a heel, because I think that she really connects with the fans, and I think that she's a really good star for the division. I think she's that person, right, that they need. But I just think that if they give her a little bit more leeway and just have her show more of an edgier side and just be more of a badass, then man, like, and maybe I'm reading too much into it, but let me know what you guys think. But man, like, it was just something with that ending sequence I just thought was badass, and I was really here for it. And then after the match ended, when Carmella just started beating down Bianca out of nowhere, and yeah, like, well, of course not out of nowhere, but kind of out of nowhere, because, you know, and especially since in the sense that Liv Morgan didn't end up coming out. I think that's what everyone was kind of expecting. Carmella just beat the shit out of Bianca Belair, and Bianca was obviously left kind of wobbly and not 100%, and we all were expecting Liv Morgan, and Liv didn't come out. So to see Carmella kind of get that last laugh in a lot of ways, and just kind of be like, yo, bitch, you may have retained your title, but I'm still gonna, you know, beat your ass type thing. I just liked this. And I liked that little edgier side of her too. So yeah, I really liked the ending to this much more than I originally thought, and I liked that Liv didn't come out here. So yeah, it was a fairly good match. Moving on, and I will say, I was just kind of reading through my notes here really quick. Corey Graves, and I always kind of try to listen a little bit more when Carmella comes out. You know, obviously him and Carmella are married now, so congrats to them. But it's just fun to hear what he's gonna say. And at one point, he mentioned that for Bianca to essentially be careful because he hasn't finished adding Carmella onto his insurance yet. And it was a funny thing, right? But me reading way too much into everything, it's like, I don't know. Well, since I brought it up, I will. But it's like, you would think that being a wrestlers would have insurance since they work for WWE, but no, they don't, you know, and it's just another one of those things. But it was just kind of a funny moment that kind of had me thinking more than he probably intended for anyone to, for that matter. But moving on here, next up we have what I thought was the match of the night, and that was the WWE Tag Team Championship match. The Usos being your champions, defending against the Street Profits. And God, this match had to go at least 20 minutes, and it was great. This was a fucking great match. This is the exact type of tag team wrestling match that I love. It had a little bit of everything. It had your big spots. It had your transition moments. It had your just mat wrestling. It just had a little bit of everything. And I think Angelo Dawkins really stood out here as well. You know, for whatever reason, I don't know if you guys saw the pre-show, I caught, you know, moments of it. I was trying to clean here and there and cook, but Angelo and Ford had made their way out, and they're kind of, I don't know exactly where the gang is held, the pre-show crew, but you have like your Peter Rosenberg, Booker T, JBL, and oh my God, I'm forgetting Charlie. I'm forgetting her name, Caruso. God, I'm forgetting her name. I'm so sorry, but they're stationed somewhere out in the arena, kind of in like the middle of the floor. You're not necessarily super close to the ring, maybe 50 yards away from the ring. But it's cool because you're seeing everyone file in, and production's still setting up, and it's just really cool. And the wrestlers themselves get to interact with the fans, and Montez really did. At one point, she had asked Montez Ford a question. He was taking a selfie with the fan, and she was like, "Hey, this is business time." And it was just fun. It was real, you know, like. I just live for shit like that with WWE, especially because it's like, God, guys, like, you're set as a company. You have nothing left to prove, so just have fun and just loosen up a little bit. But not gonna get into that right now. But the match itself, but that's what I was getting to with the pre-show. They had mentioned again that there may be some friction between the two, and Dawkins shut that shit down really quick. He was like, Montez is essentially his brother. They've been through a lot together. There's no issues. Long story short. He was kind of taking the lead there, and Booker T had asked a question, and Dawkins was the lead in the response there as well. So I just think he had a really good moment in that pre-show. For whatever reason, that kind of really stood out to me. And then in the match itself, seeing him do that dive, that flip over the top rope to the outside on both Usos and landing on his feet and just kind of starting his little hot run there for a minute. It was dope, you know, and the guy's gotten in great shape. He's almost completely transformed himself since he first debuted on the main roster itself. So just happy for him, you know. It was a good night for him and a good night for the team as well. But with this, I loved the ending to this match too. At first, we thought it was just a clean victory with the Usos retaining their championships rather by pinning Montez forward. I believe it was after they hit the 1D. But upon further review of the footage, I'm looking at the picture of it now, Montez Ford's shoulder was up, so the duration of the 3 count should not have happened. The referee did not see Montez's shoulder, I believe it was his left shoulder, off the mat, so that obviously sets up a rematch, and I'm pretty certain we're probably gonna get that rematch at SummerSlam, and if we do, I hope the Street Profits get the victory there. One of my selling points in the prediction show was that the bloodline is remaining strong, and the Usos are obviously part of the bloodline, and you don't want to have them lose the titles. But I think with the tag division, it's different. And I think at that point, you need to do something different to spice it up. So if they're going to keep the Street Profits together for the long haul, or at least for the foreseeable future, I could see them having a rematch and running this classic, well, I'm just going to call it that, back at SummerSlam. And hopefully we'll have a different outcome there. Next up on the card, we had the SmackDown Women's Championship match, Ronda Rousey being your champion, defending against Natalya. And this match was good. This match was very good. This match, I think, it wasn't quite at the level of, like, an engagement that I would have necessarily thought, just with the sole fact that, like I said in the prediction show again, Natalya was the main wrestler who trained Ronda Rousey coming in. Of course, you have Kurt Angle. I'm saying when she made her original debut back in 2018, 2019. But these two have chemistry. If Ronda Rousey is going to have a good, solid wrestling match with anyone in the women's division in WWE, it's going to be Natalya. So that alone, I was looking forward to the match. The story was what it was, the stupid shit with the stroller, you know, Ronda Rousey getting upset that Natalya didn't know her baby's date of birth, like, by a month or some shit. She was off. I don't know. It's just, you know, frustrating. But I'm not going to get into that here because the match was good. And again, I loved the finish of this match. I loved the finishing sequence that they had. It was pretty much like a trading of holes. They went from the sharpshooter to the angle lock, and then finally Ronda Rousey hit her armbar to make Natalya tap out. But it's like, it was really good. It was really smooth, and maybe I just have a weird thing for transitions, as that seems to be the consistent thing that I keep going back to here in this podcast, but I don't know, guys. Like, this match was really good, and I say that for the wrestling, but here is where I'm gonna kind of maybe sound like a hypocrite in a lot of ways. So I'm sorry, but Ronda Rousey just isn't hitting for some reason, and Ronda, on her second return here into WWE, it just hasn't been good, and I think a lot of that has to do with pairing her up with Charlotte, and I will stick with the fact that I was right back it was probably, with the Royal Rumble? I don't know, some shit. Whenever she made her return, and whatever podcast I went on, and I was stating essentially that they're stupid if they don't go to Becky Lynch and Ronda Rousey this year, because you have to strike while the iron is hot. And they didn't do that, which we all know now. And to me, I just feel like it just really took a big hit. And again, I love what it did for Bianca in respects that Becky and Bianca had a fantastic match at WrestleMania. But man, like, it really impacted and had a trickle effect. And I just don't feel like Ronda wants to be here. And whether she does or doesn't, me as a fan, like, I just can't get over thinking that. And I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just me, and let me know what you guys think, but I just feel like she doesn't want to be here. I feel like she's just finishing out her contract, and I feel like once this set of contract or set of dates in this contract is done, I feel like Homegirl is out. I think maybe for herself, she'll want to do like maybe like a Legends deal or make like rare appearances or kind of like even a smaller version of like Brock Lesnar's schedule. But I don't know, like, I don't know. The big time feel that she once brought isn't there either, and I think that had a lot to do with it too. But again, that was kind of why I was thinking that maybe you can have Becky Lynch win the briefcase and then travel over to SmackDown and kind of just talk shit with Ronda and really just give life back to Ronda Rousey's character on TV. But that being said, the victory did end up going to Ronda Rousey here, but surprisingly enough, right after the match, we did end up getting a surprise run-in from Liv Morgan. She earlier in the night, I'll say or I forgot to say rather, she had an interview backstage with Kayla Braxton, who is the name I forgot earlier. So sorry. Charlie is the one who ended up leaving WWE. So sorry about that, Kayla. You do great work, girl. But they had interviewed Liv Morgan backstage about her victory and what her plans were, and she said essentially she's going to think about it. She's going to go and celebrate, and WrestleMania doesn't sound like that bad of an idea, but she'll see. And she obviously didn't go far, and I guess the celebration sucked because she ended up coming back out and cashed in the briefcase. I was worried. She cashed in the briefcase. Ronda Rousey immediately locked in the ankle lock, and I'm thinking, oh my god, because the fans were so pumped and so hyped for her to run in, which of course they always are, right, for any cash in, but it was just like you could tell they were excited for Liv. And to see her immediately get locked up in the ankle lock, I was just like, oh my god, they're gonna fucking blow it here. They're gonna blow it. But they didn't. Liv was in the ankle lock and sold it for a good amount of time, which kudos to them. That was brilliant looking back on it. She ended up reversing it though, and ended up getting the 1-2-3 on Ronda freaking Rousey. Liv Morgan pinned Ronda Rousey to win the SmackDown Women's Championship. Again, if you would have told me this on the prediction show, I'd have been like, what? Yeah, I don't hate it though, and it's weird. It's, again, as much as I probably sound like a hypocrite, even just within this podcast, I as much as I wasn't for Liv winning the briefcase, but I will speak for myself. I give WWE a lot of shit a lot of times for just sticking with the same formula and just being so predictable with a lot of things. And I obviously didn't predict this. So for that matter alone, I'll give them kudos and the benefit of the doubt. And I'm going to see and take away see an approach with this. I'm going to see how serious they take Liv as a champion, whether they have her lose it immediately back on SmackDown this coming week, whether she goes to SummerSlam against Ronda Rousey, defends it there, and then lose the title. I don't know, but I'm happy for Liv in that sense, like I said earlier. But where I think that they really, really lost a lot and lost a golden opportunity, when Ronda was essentially handing the title over to Liv after the match and saying, here you go, you deserve it, give her a hug, all that good stuff. I wanted a heel turn so fucking badly, guys. Like, I was just, I would have put money on it that she was going to turn, and she didn't, and I think that was a big opportunity that was missed. So yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna wait and see how the Liv Morgan SmackDown champion story runs. Was not expecting it, especially defeating Ronda Rousey clean, but again, I'm here for it, and I'm happy they did something different, and we'll see how it goes. We are now at the main event. If Mark Henry would say it is now time for the main event, I'm just gonna say, let me at least identify all the respective participants in the match. We had, and set the stage here, we had the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. Of course, your participants are Sheamus, Drew McIntyre, Seth Rollins, Sami Zayn, Madcap Moss, and Riddle and Omos, of course, rounding out the field for the men's side. As I almost started before I announced the match properly, I loved Riddle in this match. I was just here for everything Riddle. He was the standout in the match, in my opinion, and I don't think it came close. I think Riddle is a star in the making, and looking back on it, I'm kind of... I wish he still... I'm not going to say I wish, but I still would have been very happy if he won, but I'm okay with him not winning. I really still think that they should have put the briefcase with Rollins. I think Rollins has given a lot the past 6-8 months, especially the past 3-4 months with Cody Rhodes in particular, and the feud that he lost to Cody 3 times in. It's just, he needed this win, and I think that he would have been perfect for it, but of course, if you didn't see the show and you're just listening to this without hearing anything, I thank you if you have. But there was a surprise entrant in the ladder match itself, which I think was probably a letdown if you were there in the building. But Adam Pearce came out right before the match itself started and announced that there was going to be essentially a surprise entrant in the match, and that ended up being Theory. Look, once Theory made his way to the ring, it was pretty obvious that, okay, Theory's gonna win, which he did. Theory ended up getting the victory here and winning the 2022 Men's Money in the Bank briefcase, and I'm just gonna kind of jump to that. Well, no, I'll wait. The match itself was good, and I think a couple spots that stood out to me, obviously Riddle we'll get into. The spot where all the guys teamed up together and slammed Omos through the announcer's table at ringside. Just the way that they all picked him up above their shoulders and just kind of like pressed him and just slammed him into it. It was so smooth and just so well done. Like, I don't know why, but that was just really impressive to me. So yeah, just shout out to all the guys involved in that and the coordination and just the teamwork that it took, because I mean, yeah, like there's strong dudes out there, but Omos is a huge giant, and it's different than picking up one set, like bench press, for instance, like one set weight of a certain amount. But when you're picking up a human body and you have all these other factors and guys going into it, it's just, the dynamic is weird sometimes, and it could be off balance. So again, it was nothing like spectacular, but for whatever reason, it just really stood out to me. There was another moment in the match where Riddle went to the top of the climbed to the top of the ladder and hit a floating bro, which is kind of like a twisting flip that he does. It was just beautiful. Just everything about it. His poise on top of the ladder, the stability, the execution of the move, like the placement, how all the guys, it was like Seth Rollins, Sheamus, Drew McIntyre, and I forget the other one who was in there, but the placement of the guys below, they caught him perfectly. Like, it just so well done, and just, it really shows like just the professionalism that these guys have and just the different level that they're on. So shout out to everyone involved in that spot as well. But the moment of the match itself to me was when it was Riddle and Rollins at the top of the ladder, and Riddle just hit this beautiful RKO from the top of the ladder onto Rollins into the ring. It was so realistic looking that one of the referees almost immediately jumped in to make sure Rollins was okay. It was just, man, like, it was just so beautiful and just so well done. That's why I feel like Rollins is the MVP. Reigns may be the face of WWE, right? Roman Reigns, the champion and all that shit, but Rollins is the MVP. Rollins is the motor and the engine that keeps that thing going. So I hope they give him bonus after bonus. I hope he gets a contract extend. I hope he gets whatever he wants, essentially. You know what I mean? I hope he gets everything and then some, because dude is just unbelievable. Like, it just, with everything he does, and I think Riddle, for that matter, is on his way to being a good, solid performer and a good what's the word I'm looking for? Just a good reliant player, right? And a good, just reliable wrestler, kind of like in the Rollins sense. You know, I'm not sure the age difference there, but I just think Riddle is a star, and Riddle is a star in the making. So again, when Theory was introduced, it was damn obvious that he was gonna win the match itself, and it's kind of upsetting, you know. I don't know. I'm gonna wait and see with this one, but I'm not as hopeful and not as happy as I was with Liv Morgan winning, and as okay, I guess I should say rather, with Liv Morgan winning, because when you look at it, the two victors of the Money in the Bank matches this year were Liv Morgan and Theory. Liv Morgan isn't as bad. It was just maybe more surprising than Theory. Theory obviously has that surprise factor because he wasn't even in the damn match to begin with, but I don't know. I'm gonna wait and see, but I don't think it's gonna have a good outcome because he technically has a year to cash in, right? But I don't with the talent that you're putting in the main event slot, Theory doesn't fit in there yet, and I don't see, and I could be wrong, and I hope I will be wrong, but I don't see him fitting in the main event scene within the next year. I just don't. Whether it's with a Roman Reigns, a Cody Rhodes, Bobby Lashley. I said what I said earlier that he belonged, but that was in the Universal title picture. That was a completely different context and field. And maybe with the right build and the right focus on his character, and they take him in a more serious approach going forward and drop like the selfie bullshit and stuff like that and tweak his character, then yeah, maybe so. Maybe a year from now or less then, maybe at WrestleMania. Maybe we'll see something differently, but if they just go the route and just keeping him kind of like a smarmy heel, someone who's just looking to cheat to win and just not as concerned with being the best in ring and just more concerned with just getting the victory in any way he can. I just see him like not successfully cashing in the briefcase, and if that's the case, then why even put it on him this year to begin with? I just feel like you could have at least waited another year or so before putting him in that situation to win the briefcase and then to have the pressure of cashing in successfully, you know? And if he does, have it believable. So, I don't know, guys. I'm not going to shit on it, but I'm not as excited with that as I would have been with Rollins winning or even Riddle or Sami Zayn for that matter. Sami Zayn didn't even really end up playing that big of a factor as or have that much of a, oh my god, is he going to win moment as I thought he would. He did have a scary moment where, I forget what the exact move was. I think just like a power bomb that he was taken, maybe from Drew into a ladder that was set up kind of angled between the turnbuckles, and he hit the back of his head, and oh my god, like I grabbed my head when I saw that. And the referee that was outside right there by the ring, the second Sammy rolled underneath of the bottom rope, the referee went over there and grabbed the back of Sammy's head and was like, pretty much asking him like, are you okay? So hopefully everything is good there and no concussion, no nothing. He probably just has a really bad headache and is just probably sore. But man, that was a scary moment too. Head injuries are no joke, so hope he is okay there. But yeah, again, guys, the pay-per-view itself was fine. I would probably give it like a B overall, maybe I would say a B. A B is good, but I don't know. The victors for the briefcase, at least Liv did end up cashing in successfully, and she officially has now been moved over to the SmackDown side. So we'll see what that ends up looking like, and if Ronda is sticking around, maybe she ends up leaving and taking some time off after this. I would be surprised since we're going into the summer and SummerSlam is right around the corner, and they're going to the UK. Although I'm not certain if she was originally scheduled to be going to the UK. So I definitely would have to, obviously look into that. But be interesting to see what this means for Ronda Rousey going forward as well. But thank you guys so much for listening to the show. I hope you have a fantastic night, a safe 4th of July, and a great week going forward. And we'll be talking soon.